Hi guys, and welcome back to my book channel. Today we'll be talking about the book of Human Bondage by William Somerset Maugham. Let's talk about my rating of the book. Personally, I would give it an 8 out of 10. I love the spontaneity of the main character as well as how the character develops throughout the story. Now let's talk about the characters of this novel. Let's start with the main character, Philip Carey. He is a proud man that does not like to be ridiculed, however, will shed all of his pride away for love. From then on in the novel, we will meet new characters depending on where Philip is living. And with each new place that he's living, he meets a new love interest. We have Fanny Price, an aspiring artist. We have Nora, an author, Mildred, a waitress, and Sally, the daughter of one of his patients. Look closely at the cover of this book, we see a scene where Philip is dining at a diner where Mildred works. Mildred, of course, is one of his love interests from the middle of the book almost to the end of the book. With Philip's mother dying and his father already dead from a car accident. Philip is then brought to live with his aunt and uncle, which at their house he learns about Christianity and shows some sort of interest in the topic. Philip goes through school wanting to become a vicar like his uncle until something changes his mind. Philip is very bored with the monotony of school and wants to change it. He goes to Germany to study new languages and in hopes of finding something that he has passion for. The author of this novel, as stated before, is William Somerset Maugham. An English playwright, his novels are best known for their clear, unadorned style and their understanding of the human nature. He has written over 35 books, all spanning the course of his lifetime. He was one of the most popular writers of his generation and was the highest paid author of the 1930s. After a few months, a disheartened Philip leaves Germany for an apprenticeship in Britain. While on his apprenticeship, he gets called away to France for a business venture. While in France, he falls in love with the art there and decides to leave his apprenticeship after a year to study art. In France, he meets a woman called Fanny Price at his art studio. Fanny Price, an aspiring young artist, although hopeless at it, eventually suicides because of her hunger. Philip, after her suicide, rethinks his life and goes through the process of thinking, is my art good enough? Am I going to make it as an artist? He eventually decides that his art isn't good enough after being told by his master or the person that's in charge of the art class that if he tried, he would become a mediocre artist but never a good one. He eventually leaves France after hearing about his aunt's death. Back to Britain, he decides to change professions again due to his not being so interested in art anymore. He decides to follow his father's footsteps and become a doctor. Philip tries for months, and after his first exam, he finds out that he has failed and he will not pass as a doctor. After his failure, him and his friend go to a cafe, which is seemingly the first time that he meets Mildred. The first time he meets Mildred, he thinks of her as a loud-mouthed girl. He doesn't like her. He thinks she's too skinny, but over time, he develops some sort of feelings for her. Even after being rebuffed so many times, he still decides to pursue Mildred because he has irrevocably fallen in love with her. Mildred continually shoots him down, however is eventually worn down by his loving nature. Philip and her go out on a date to a play, however Mildred does eventually leave him for another person. When she comes back, she is with a baby this time belonging to the person she ran away with. Philip, still having not passed his doctoral exam, decides to support her. However, again, she does leave him, this time for one of his best friends. All the previous times, Mildred does leave again, this time leaving Philip in shatters, because not only has she destroyed his heart, she destroyed any financial prospects that he might have had. While Mildred is away, he meets a girl named Sally. Sally is the daughter of one of his patients. However, Mildred comes back for the final time. This time she has tuberculosis. Philip, of course, being still kind of in love with her, does try to help her, even though we do somewhat know that she has become a prostitute. But she does eventually die, and we see the chains that have fallen upon Philip because of his love for her finally lifted, and he decides to pursue Sally. Most major life changes in the story are usually when Philip decides to change his setting. Like when he decides to leave school to go to Germany to pursue something different, or when he decides to leave for Paris, even though he had an apprenticeship. Both cases, he experienced something new and exciting, and they were very interesting turns to have in the story. Other major life changes are when Philip meets a new woman. When he meets a new love interest, we see him turn to someone that we haven't seen before, like Sally, or with Mildred. Each time we get to see a different layer of Philip. Thank you for listening to my take on the book of Human Bondage by William Somerset Maugham. I would recommend this book to anyone who wants a good read, and goodbye.